You know, I watched from an interesting vantage point the struggle for black civil rights in this country because it happened in my lifetime. If you're of a certain age, it happened in your lifetime too. When I was born, when I was in elementary school, granted, it was not so bad up north, but in the South, everything was rigidly segregated. The Jim Crow laws were in full effect. And as a witness to history, over the course of my life, I watched those laws succumb to legislative pressure and then to judicial interpretation of the Constitution, yada, yada, yada. But the other thing that I watched, while black folk and people of color were determined to vote, so many white people said, oh, well, nah, it's all right. Now, they didn't say that because the system was broken. Because at one time, the system wasn't broken. It needed a hell of a lot of fixing, but it wasn't broken the way it was shattered in 2000. But where did the white people go? Where did the, I hear all the complaints about the middle class and the working class and so on and so forth. Well, what did we in the working class and the middle class do to allow ourselves to be hanged by the neck? What did we do? Nothing. That's right. We did nothing. When was the last time you or I went to a political rally and then hung around afterwards and signed up to volunteer, whatever it took to volunteer, whatever they needed? When's the last time we did that? When's the last time we made a contribution? Now, I realize it's different now with Bernie Sanders in the race. But when we talk about how broken the system is, if we don't include our own culpability, we're not being honest. We're just not. And I'm not preaching. I'm more guilty of this than you are. I really am. I've always tried to vote. But there were stretches when I just couldn't. I was living somewhere else, didn't register, didn't change states, didn't do this, didn't do that. Got bored. It was raining out. Oh, to hell with it. Somebody else will do it. Yeah, who cares? Now, just a year and a half ago, on this program, I said, what's the use of voting? What's the use of voting anymore? The system is so rigged. And that is still a viable argument for me. What's the point? Until all of a sudden, out of the weeds, pops this disheveled, gray-haired 73-year-old man. How old is he? 73, 74. Who, Kathy says, he's your age. Who has the ability to lead, the ability to, I don't know his ability to solve problems. He can't solve them himself. But at least he identifies them and accepts them as political reality. This is what we have to do. If we're going to save our own asses, if we're going to save our country, if we're going to save our jobs, if we're going to save our ethical stand, if we're going to save anything, this is what we have to do. You don't hear that from these other candidates. You don't hear it at all. So, Uncle Mike hopes that you will totally disregard what he said last year about not voting. But I have to say that the responsibility, until such time as we no longer have the right, which a lot of people don't now, to go into a polling place and cast a vote. Until that time, and I would hope at that time, when enough of us are denied that right, not just black folk, white folk, other folk, these folk, that folk, I would hope at that point, when we are denied representative government, at that point, I've said before, what does it take? But at that point, we will resist. And I mean full goddamn blown resistance. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about.